guys, and welcome back to FantasyCast podcast, your weekly dose of fantasy Premier League content on this YouTube channel. If you're new to this channel, please go and click the subscribe button. And if any time you feel like you need to comment in this video, please do drop that down the comment section below. I will try to respond to as many questions as possible. We've got, let's say, 1.5 guests today. We have a special guest on this week because one of our pundits are rather busy this week, so he's decided to take a little bit of a leave for this week, a one-off leave. So in his place, we've got a guy called Kyle Anthony, which you might know as the god of memes on FPL, at FPL Fledging. How are you? Welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for that lovely introduction. I'm glad to be a part of it, and hopefully I can add some valuable insight to managers listening or watching this, and hopefully we can all try and get that green arrow in Gameweek 8.
Well, I need that green arrow, to be honest, which I'll talk about a little bit later in this episode. And Charmy will be joining us a little bit later. He's got a few things to do at the moment, so you expect his voice to hop on anytime soon. So I know it feels like a long time ago. We didn't do a recording. We didn't do a recording last week. We didn't do an episode last week. But how did Game Week 7 go for you?
Well, I think for most managers, I think it was a fairly low-scoring week. But with a lot of the popular captain options blanking, that being Lukaku, Ronaldo, and Antonio, who I think had quite high effective ownerships going into Game Week 7. But what it also proved is that Mo Salah is fixture-proof and that he can score against anyone. And that just shows that when in doubt, always captain Salah.
Yeah. And that was a pretty nice goal to score as well. Salah does have a very, very tasty fixture coming up this week. But no, to be honest, you've mentioned briefly about Lukaku there, and I want to briefly touch on this. We've seen Lukaku turn his FPL status to an FPL, well, the Dorito, let's say, the yellow Dorito of doom. Do you think that will influence any FPL managers coming into this week, or maybe on Wildcard?
I do think that after his brace in Game Week 4, was it? I think he has been slightly disappointing to those that have owned him. But having said that, he was quite unlucky in the last game week. I think he had a shot that came off the upright. And he also had a goal that was ruled offside, which could have potentially been a Rudiger assist. So I'd be more alarmed if he wasn't getting the opportunities. But the fact that he is still getting chances means that he is a good asset. And I do think that once he starts finishing these opportunities, then he will become as popular as he should be. And with the sea of green fixtures that are coming up, Chelsea should be getting a lot of chances, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him get a couple of goals within that run of fixtures.
That's very, very interesting to know about Chelsea at the moment. I'm sure we have a lot of Chelsea assets to invest in, as we mentioned about the strong fixture swings that's coming up for Chelsea. Well, let's move on then to our first section of this Podcast, where we're going to talk about briefly last game week. So, game week 7, a bit of a disaster for me. I think this is my third red arrow in 4 weeks. So it hasn't...
Horrible.
Yeah.
Horrible.
I shouldn't be the host, should I? So 40 points. Rudiger and Lukaku are doubtful. And Alonso didn't start the last game. I took a point hit, so technically it's 36 that I've got from last game week. And the only return that I got was Salah, which was
Not surprising.
Not as fateful as I hoped it would be, due to his very, very high ownership in the game. So in the top 3 million, a little bit of an improvement from game week 6, but still a little bit far from desired. Pledging, would you like to talk about your team? Just having a look now.
Yeah. My game week 7 didn't go too well. As I'm sure many others probably feel the same. So I had Sanchez in goal, which was good, as Brighton managed to keep a clean sheet against my Arsenal defender, Ben White. So going into that game, the perfect result for me would have been 0-0, and that's exactly what happened, with Ben White and Sanchez both getting clean sheet points, and Ben White getting that one bonus point. When it came to Chelsea, a bit disappointing, but I guess with Chelsea, you got to play the long term, and eventually their assets will prove to be good. But that move of Rudiger in my team was pretty much made for me, because I had Luke Shaw in my team, who was flagged as injured going into game week 7. So he was due to drop in price and Rudiger was set to rise. So I made that move knowing that Rudiger would be a long-term move. And even though he got 2 points, I'm not too concerned, because I think he's a long-term investment. Livramento getting an assist. What can I say? I think he's one of the best budget options in the game at the moment. And he's just fantastic to own. Getting an assist against Chelsea, I mean, what more can you ask for? When you look at midfield, Rafinha, 3 points, a bit disappointing, as I had 2 players from that game. I had Sarr and Rafinha both blanking. Greenwood with playing 90 minutes but not managing to get a return. So, and he did pick up a yellow card, so that was 1 point for me. Antonio blanking, and Ronaldo not even starting and coming off the bench, which was a bit disappointing, as he was my captain. And the only person that really did well was Salah, and that was against Man City, which just goes to show how important he is, and that he is fixture proof and can return at any time against any opponent. So 43 points for me, bit disappointing, but in a week where most of the scores were pretty low, I guess I'll take it and just look forward to game week 8, where I can perhaps pick up a green arrow.
Well, it's better than both of our scores. Tommy, you have the same excluding the points here, you have the same point score as I do, 40 points. A little bit of a different formula to get the 40 points that you did. But talk us through your team.
Well, I obviously feel disappointed, even though I got 40 points, but the amount of the downward arrows are horrible. But it's just part of football, I would say. So but I would say I'm impressed with Salah. Obviously, got 13 points, which without him, I don't think I would even get 40 points. And also with Duffy and Sanchez from Brighton, which is actually surprising. I thought they wouldn't even get a clean sheet, but hopefully it did. But the most disappointing was Ronaldo, Greenwood, and Shaw. I was more concerned. Was actually kind of disappointed they're not getting to a score sheet at all, especially for Greenwood, not getting assist or a goal. And I put captain on Cristiano Ronaldo, which is actually I forgot to change him up with Salah. So yeah, it was kind of bad move for me, I would say.
I'd like to actually ask you about Ronaldo because both of you guys have captained Ronaldo. What does that? You mentioned about Salah being fixture proof, but apart from that, what what was the what will you guys consider in future about captaining someone like Ronaldo? Someone who people thought was fixture, was not going to be rotated out of the squad. In the end, he did, which kind of did contribute to the 1 point that he had. What will you guys change about it?
Who do you want to answer that?
Both of you can discuss if you want.
Okay. So the way I look at it is, I did think that Ronaldo had a better fixture in the last week, and for that reason, I did captain him. Yes, I know Chelsea took on Southampton, but we have to remember that Southampton went to the Etihad Stadium and held Man City to a goalless draw. So for me, I was quite happy to captain Ronaldo, but obviously now in hindsight, with him not starting, proved to be a bad move. I just think that Ronaldo seems to be. I think his stats going into Game Week 7, I think, was far superior to Lukaku. He had the most shots, I think, on target, most shots in the box. He was getting most of the chances, and he was key to Man United's attack. The problem being that Man United have looked a bit flustered lately. A lot of the key players didn't really turn up in their last two league games, which is why they've dropped points at home. But having said that, it's very difficult for a player to come off the bench and score when the pressure is on. Although it is Ronaldo, I just feel like United didn't have the momentum in that game, and they weren't looking like they would get anything, which is why I think now that they're going through a run of bad fixtures, I think it would be the ideal time to get rid of a team in poor form. Although Ronaldo could score, but I guess you just have to look at the fixtures, and I think Chelsea have the better fixtures going forward, which is why I think that Lukaku will be a better option going forward.
Tommy, what do you think?
Yeah, I would say I would agree with him. Honestly, I feel like we tend to realize to see like how Ronaldo always tend to be consistent, especially with his previous years, and we thought that having him 24 like the whole game week is kind of something that's something possible, but we have to realize that of his age and his speed in the game are not as it was years ago. So we have to keep in our mind that Ronaldo can be subbed out by Ole, and there's a lot of other players like Cavani to replace him in I would say easy games like and in that fixture. But I agree with Kyle. He's saying that changing to Lukaku would be a better option in the future, as Chelsea is having a more easy fixture coming up in next game week and next 2 game week. So I feel, yeah, I would say, if me personally, I feel I would should change to someone who is gonna be constantly available and being more involved in terms of attacking, especially for strikers like strikers. With that amount of price, I would say I will be looking for someone playing with like Lukaku or some sort of that.
Right then. That was very, very interesting. But let's move on to the next section of the podcast, which is talking about this week's fixtures. In week 8, we move on after a poor week. Enough of that. We've got a lot of good set of fixtures coming up this week. Starting on the 16th of October, Vicarage Road host Liverpool, as Liverpool come and tries to continue their strong form to the start of the season against Watford, not top of the league right now, but one of the title contenders. Then we move on to our 3 p.m. kickoffs in the UK. Aston Villa play Wolves at Villa Park. Man United take a visit to the Midlands against Leicester. Man City play Burnley in a Greater Manchester versus Manchester derby. Kind of not as well. Norwich play Brighton as Leeds take the trip down south to Southampton at the St Mary's, before we round off Saturday's games with Brentford against Chelsea. That's an interesting London derby right there. And then we move on to Sunday's fixtures, where West Ham travel up north to Everton and Newcastle. After their new owners coming in, they will be hosting Spurs. That's going to be a packed out atmosphere stadium. And we also have a Monday night kickoff this week, another London derby. Arsenal hosting Crystal Palace after their little blip at the start of the season. Arsenal kind of on the up, let's say. I'm going to start off with Fledging. He's decided to target Newcastle against Tottenham this week. Why have you chosen that? I believe you have a lot to say.
Yeah. For me, having watched the game last week between Wolves and Newcastle, I've picked up that Newcastle are quite poor down the wings. I think Hwang Hee-chan scored 2 goals, but overall Newcastle just looked poor defensively. And with the form that Heung-min Song is on, I think that he could do very well against Newcastle, especially seeing as Harry Kane is a bit off form. I think a lot of the attack relies on Son. And although Spurs are a bit unreliable at times, I think that against a defense such as Newcastle, he could have a field day and perhaps get 2 or 3 returns. That's what I'm hoping for.
Wildcarders, watch out on the threat of Spurs against Newcastle. Newcastle 19th position so far. Spurs are currently going through a blip of form, you would say. Well, you could argue. Shami, what do you think about Spurs' chances against Newcastle?
I would say I don't know. I don't want to jinx it, but I feel it's an easy win for Tottenham. I mean, I agree with Kyle saying that how much of Newcastle being weak in the wings. So I feel like Spurs, especially Heung-min Son, is probably gonna be use it as a strength on those wing side and making it trouble for Newcastle for sure.
Yeah. Now you say that's going to be an Alan Saint-Maximin hat trick. I believe you were interested in him.
Yeah. I do
You
think
love
that can
him.
happen as well because he's been phenomenal.
I guess.
Yeah.
He
But,
could
yeah.
also could be like a 2-2 or 3-2 or 3-3 kind of game. I wouldn't put it past it because both defenses have been a bit shaky. But I would just expect Newcastle to concede a lot more chances just because there seems to be no identity in their defense.
Yeah, Newcastle isn't exactly known for having the strongest defense in the league. I believe they have the highest expected goals conceded values, 14 in the entire season.
Yeah.
Not
They're
surprising.
definitely the whooping boys and a team you would want to target week in, week out.
Yeah. Shami, moving on to your fixture. I believe you want to talk about, is it Chelsea against
Chelsea.
Brentford?
Yeah.
What we thought was the whipping boys of the league
Yeah.
turns out
Oh, yeah.
to, go and nick a draw against Liverpool and beating Arsenal. An upset waiting to happen today.
Yeah, I mean, like, honestly, I never expect Brentford to be winning against the big clubs. Honestly, I thought they're gonna be like Norwich, where people just can get easy points from them. Honestly, but they prove a lot of people's wrong. The way they're attacking football and their enjoyment in football is just bizarre, and I'm really intrigued to see like how Brentford way of playing of games and Tuchel ways of currently is with Chelsea not really in a good form at the moment, and I want to see how Brentford gonna use those their ideas, their techniques, their tactics to beat Chelsea, who was currently a holder of a European champion. I just really wanted to see that, honestly. Yeah.
Fledgling, I know you also love Chelsea, and you are one of the wildcarders that have already pressed the purple button. I'm sure this is one game that you'll be intrigued to look at.
Yeah, it is quite an intriguing game because on one hand, I do have Lukaku and a Chelsea defender in my team, but at the same time, I'd be lying if I say I wasn't impressed by Mbeumo, Ivan Toney, and even the Brentford defense. I think the best comparison to draw with Brentford is similar to the Leeds of last season. If we remember Leeds from last season, their players were phenomenal. And if I look at Ivan Toney, I think of Patrick Bamford. When I look at Mbeumo, I think of Rafinha. When I look at some of their defenders, like I think Pinnock and the other guy's name, I can't remember. It starts with a C, I think. It reminds me of the likes of Dallas and yes, Canos. It reminds me of Dallas and even their defender Raya. I see he is also, he's getting a lot of shots saved, and he could be a potential gem in that as a 4.5 million goalkeeper, and similar to how Meslier was last season. I do expect Chelsea to win just because of the overall depth of quality in their team. But I won't be surprised if Brentford give them quite a tough task, because as we've seen, I think it was the Liverpool game where they drew 3-3 where they drew 3-3 there. Brentford just show a lot of resilience, and even when the scores were tied and it was deep into the game, they didn't sit back. They always pushed forward in attack and they tried to get that win, which shows a team with a fighting spirit similar to Leeds of last season. And yes, although they might concede a lot of chances, which is why I think the likes of Lukaku could score, I wouldn't be surprised if they wipe out that Chelsea clean sheet in the process, and it is a bit worrying, which is why probably when we discuss wildcard drafts later, we'll probably get more into detail. But yeah, I actually I currently on my latest wildcard draft, I've got both of Mbuemo and Tony, because I just think that they offer good value, and with the fixtures that are coming up, I do think that they could be similar. They could be a poor man's Harry Kane and Heung-min Son of last season, where they just link up particularly well and should be key to Brentford's push for the rest of the season and their hopes of staying alive.
Yeah, I would largely agree. Shami, do you have anything to add?
No, I also agree with him.
Yeah. Just hope after the Chelsea FPL wise defense disaster, let's hope for no more 3-goal, well, 6-goal or 5-goal thriller. So yeah, I'm gonna briefly talk about Liverpool this week against Watford. Yes, I know I've mentioned before in the podcast that I won't talk about Liverpool, but unfortunately, it has come to a time that I have to talk about Liverpool. The opening kickoff of this game so far, Fledgling mentioned earlier in the podcast about Salah being fixture-proof. I just think he's a must-have in your team now, to be honest. He's probably got one of the highest stats in the whole league so far. He's got 1.2 expected goal involvement per 90, which places him one of the highest in the league, to be honest. Certainly the highest nailed on players this week. That's nailed on players for Liverpool. But once we're looking at that, we have other plethora of options for the Liverpool areas, such as your Liverpool defence so far. I believe that Andy Robertson is a very, very good asset to have in the team. Liverpool have got a good set of fixtures coming up, I believe. Apart from Man United, if you look on hindsight, Watford, Brighton, West Ham in the next 4 is not a bad fixture list to have, despite what the FPL fixed difficulty rating has to suggest. What do you guys think?
I mean, it's hard to disagree about Salah not being in a player to be in FPL. So yeah, I would say at the moment, yeah, Salah is one of the players that is a must-have. I mean, last season it was like either Salah or Bruno, but now it's just Salah at this point, and he's been just keep on scoring every week in, week out. So yeah, with the price, it's basically perfect to get us big points compared to other players.
He's got 6 returns in 7 weeks. In fact, you know what? Let's put this better. He's only blanked in 1 week in FPL so far. Only 1.
And that's actually an impressive record.
That's a very, very impressive record. Very, very reliable. Kyle loves him as well. He talked about him being, fixture proof. He'll get you anything, even in the toughest situations. Anything else to add from that? Fledgling?
Yeah, what I would say is that if you look at it, I think Salah, as we all know, is a great option at that premium price, and I think many learned the hard way last week by removing him ahead of the wildcard this week. Many thought that they would take a chance and avoid that fixture, and he was one of the highest scorers last week. So yeah, I think when it comes to Salah, I think there's no question about it. The other option in Liverpool being Trent Alexander-Arnold, I always say that even though he is 7.5 million, you've got to treat Trent as a midfielder because he spends most of his time along those wings and in those forward positions and gets into the box at times. With Liverpool playing a high line, I think that suits him a lot. And he is also currently number one for chances created in the game. So I think that's quite great value for a defender who's created the most chances when you look at the fact that he's competing against wingers and players in other positions. So Trent is another one for me who I think you've got to play him week in, week out, because look at him as a 7.5 million midfielder that gets clean sheet points too.
That's true, yeah, I agree.
That's very true. And you have to look at how many midfielders is he going to outscore as well. I know you like to think of it that way.
Yeah, I think historically he is a 200-point kind of player. And if you look at the price tag, I don't think there's many players that can outscore him at that price point. I know Antonio has been terrific, but there's very few. And with him, you will be getting quite a bit of assist, and he is on corners and free kicks.
He's on set pieces. FPL people love that.
Yeah, he's on set pieces. He plays for a team that's good defensively and good offensively. So I don't know, what more can you want? I think you just got to pay the price and just leave him in your team. And over the season, he will reward you.
Yeah, I would agree. The only thing I would question on that is Trent Alexander-Arnold's injury status, because we've known he's been injured for quite a while now. Yeah, but apart from that, it's quite hard.
I think there's been some reports that were announced yesterday that he is available for the Watford game, and I think he has been pictured in training according to the Liverpool official page on Twitter. There were pictures of him in training. Whether that means he starts is another question, but they have announced that he is available. We've just got to hope that he starts and he's not placed on the bench.
Yeah, I would agree on that. Well, enough of talking about this week's fixtures. Let's move on to the next section of the podcast where we answer one of our Twitter questions. So, Twitter question this week then. @_ the VAR official has asked the question about West Ham players this week and whether we should be holding our West Ham FPL assets, whether we should sell or we should keep FPL. Our own West Ham assets. Just out of interest to both of you, do we have a West Ham player, at least a West Ham player in our squad? I have Antonio and Benrahma.
Same as me. I have two.
I'm currently on Wildcard, and in my latest draft, I have neither of them.
Okay. So we can kind of have a little bit of a debate.
Yeah.
Okay. Sure. Shami, I believe you've used your wild card. It's just changed a little bit now. Tell me, why are you keeping your West Ham assets?
I think in my opinion, I feel like that's a better option than any other players, because at the moment even though that seems to be like very not really sure on form, like how it's supposed to be since the first early weeks, but it's actually it's better. But I don't know, I feel like it's better than anyone else at the moment, and with the cheap price of those, I think those are a very valuable choice, even though they're not having a very good fixture in the upcoming weeks. And sacrificing them with other players, I think is a very tough decision, I would say. But yeah, But if I have another wild card right now, but I would certainly change them with someone else. Probably better, honestly. Probably someone who isn't having a hard fixture in the next coming weeks. I would say, yeah.
Fledgling, would you like to rebuttal?
Yeah, look, I think that there was a stage where having two West Ham players, being Benrahma and Antonio, were good. But going forward, I do think that just having one is good enough. Reason being is I think there are a lot of decent budget options in midfield that have emerged, being Mbuemo. Everton have some decent budget midfielders. Rafinha also looks great for the upcoming run of fixtures. I just worry about West Ham because now it's getting towards the busy part of the season with Europa League, and on top of that, they have a tough run of fixtures in the Premier League. So, will we see those key players being prioritized in Europe, or will they be prioritized in England? And it makes me a bit worried because they do have. I know that Benrahma plays as a number 10, but they also have Vlasic, who they've signed in the last transfer window. So would he be getting a lot more minutes in the Premier League? And yeah, look, I'm just backing the fixtures at the moment, and I do think at the very least you can go with one West Ham player, that being Antonio. But having said that, I've chosen to avoid him just due to the fixtures, and also I do think that a player such as Adam Armstrong from Southampton could do quite well, because Southampton start a good run of fixtures, and they've just passed. I think they have had quite a tough run of fixtures leading up until this point. So that would kind of be my differential, if you'd like to say, with the forwards. And that's just the way I'm looking at it. And I think with as I said, I think the West Ham, they're busy run of fixtures in the Premier League and in Europe. Will Antonio be playing 90 minutes in the Europa League and 90 minutes in the Premier League?
I doubt.
We know he is injury. Yeah, we know he is injury prone and has had problems with his hamstring in the past. I wouldn't be surprised if he does score, but with this tougher run of with other budget forwards having an easier run of fixtures, I'd much prefer to take a chance with them on a wild card.
Yeah, I tend to agree, because I just think that because we know that West Ham's squad depth isn't the best in the league. It just isn't. And we might, this is quite slim, but we might receive, a few rotations here and there from the West Ham squad. Don't be surprised if we see that, because, we can see that, not very well, but Bowen can play up front. So that there could be some rotation risks there. Vlasic can definitely take Benrahma's spot in the team so far. And then, I know this is a little bit far in the distance, but Jesse Lingard, he's rumoured to leave Manchester United in January, opening up different avenues for West Ham to possibly sign him. So what I'm thinking when I look at West Ham players is that, yes, for now, if you really want to hold on to them, I don't see why not. But if you're on a wild card, which Fledgling you are, quite hard to argue against that. Anything else to add, Shami?
Yeah, I mean, nah, not really, honestly. But I would say, I cannot disagree with that. But if you're having a wild card at the moment and removing a West Ham player, at least one of them would be a better option than having two, as they won't risk you losing any points. As for example, like Benrahma, if you want to remove Benrahma, at least and you have Michael Antonio, at least you're not having to. At least you don't you don't have to have like 4 points from them. Instead, you can have like 2 points from one of them and have more points from different other players. I would say, with the current form, with especially West Ham is in the Continental League, in Continental Cup. So I would say, they will constantly rotate. I would say so. Yeah, probably best not to have any more than one West Ham player if you want to have West Ham player. Say.
And just one more thing to add there. I think if you are looking at an option like Adam Armstrong from Southampton, who has a great run of fixtures, should be on penalties, he is only 6 million. So that's a 2 million saving that you can use to upgrade
or downgrade.
Anyway, I mean, that's it.
Downgrade Antonio, I thought.
Yeah. If you downgrade Antonio to Armstrong or Tony or Huang, you're getting you're getting 2 to 2.5 million. That's potentially upgrading someone like Livramento to Cancelo or Livramento
or Grealish to Son, like I do.
Or Grealish to a Son, Livramento to a Man City or Chelsea defender. So I just think that there is an upside, and you got to try play the fixtures where you can, and look for differentials, because when your team is too template and it's too similar, then you've got to try and pick the opportunities to try get ahead of the curve. And I think this could be one of them. That's just the way I've looked at it.
Yeah, I agree. As a team that's got, according to Live FPL, 66% moderately differential team, I tend to agree. To agree to disagree, the next section of the podcast, let's talk about our wildcards drafts. So, our wildcard drafts then. I've made a wildcard draft, Fledging's made a wildcard draft, and Shami's currently making a wildcard draft. So Fledging will go first, I'll go second, and Shami can talk about his wildcard draft last. Fledging, you're actually on a wildcard. Yeah. I think I mentioned this in the earlier in the podcast. Tell us, what is the psychology behind the team that you've picked, the draft that you've picked, that we've got on the screen right now?
Okay, so I think the most important part of, the psychology that went into picking this wildcard draft is firstly balance. It's about depth in positions. You're not just focusing on a strong 11, but rather an overall strong squad. As the season progresses, you're probably going to see a lot of key players being rested just to cope with the longevity of the season. I also think that if you are using your wildcard now, game week 8, most likely, most usual cases, the next time you use a wildcard is probably between game week 30 to 35, as that's when the double game weeks come into play. So you need to try to build a squad of decent players that are fairly consistent, not too many differential or punts, as you could say, long-term investments rather than short-term investments. And if you are going to take a risk, try and limit it down to, I would say, 2 players maximum. Just because if they do not start, have you invested enough money on your bench to be able to cope with such losses? So those are some of the key factors that I look at when constructing a wildcard.
And I'm just looking at it right now for a while now. You mentioned about differentials and,
Yes.
punts.
Yes.
I want to quote you on Ferran Torres at the moment, because
Yeah.
with the arrival
Sure.
of, the return of De Bruyne and Foden into the team,
Yes.
will I don't think that would solidify Torres's position in the team. What do you think?
It's so hard to predict because with Guardiola, anything is possible. But when I thought about the entire thing, I just looked at it, and from the last couple of games, what I have noticed is that Guardiola does not trust Torres in the bigger games or bigger cup competitions. Whereas a player like Foden has been, I think he's played in the Liverpool game and had a man of the match performance. I think last season he played almost 90% of all the Champions League games, which was Man City's number one priority. So I do think that Foden is more likely of a player that will be trusted in the bigger games, bigger cup competitions that are vitally important, which is why Man City's next three fixtures are against quite easy teams. So I think Pep will use this as an opportunity to try and play Torres, because although he hasn't started in the last four games had a bit of mixed fixtures. I think Chelsea was there, Liverpool was there. They played PSG in the Champions League. And I think Torres didn't play in any of them. So just with that thinking alone, I'm going with it is a risk, but I'm just going with the mindset that these are easier games. So Pep will go back and try and play that false nine of Torres, and try and give him some minutes while resting other key players that have played in bigger games like Foden. Because if you look at my wildcard, it's basically considering players within that price point, like Torres, Foden, Grealish. Mahrez I think is a bit expensive. So trying to pick one is difficult, as anyone could get dropped. But I'm just going with the hope that due to it being an easier run of games, Pep will try and bring him back into the team.
Yeah. I would like to also question you on Aaron Ramsdale and his credibility as a starting 11 for Arsenal. Do you think he might be rotated between Bernd Leno and himself?
There is the possibility, we can never rule that out. But I think if you just pull up Ramsdale's stats for a second.
Yeah.
And if you look at the first three games that look at all the games that Ramsdale has started: Gameweek 4, 5, 6, and 7. He should have kept 4 clean sheets. He was very unlucky in the Tottenham game. And the 2 games that he did not start in Gameweek 2 and 3, they conceded 7 goals collectively in those first 2 games. So ever since he has joined the Arsenal starting 11, he has only conceded 1 goal. He's conceded 1 goal in 4 games. I think that's phenomenal. And I think it would be very unwise for Arteta to drop him for Leno, who's conceded. Yes, it was tougher games, but I just think that the influence that Ramsdale has had on the Arsenal defense since joining in Gameweek 4 has been immense.
Yeah. Charmy, as an Arsenal fan, would you agree on that?
Yeah, I would agree. I don't think Mikel will even want to drop Ramsdale at the moment. I mean, with his current form of his energy in the team, I don't think his would be even change or any drastic change would be any happen, especially in defense with in the centre back area with Ben White and Gabriel as a starting. I don't think Mikel would want to risk changing that to different players with back four are all on in form. Yeah, I don't think they were gonna change any of that.
And I think he played Leno in the cup competition. I think it was the League Cup or FA Cup against a very weak team. So I think that just solidifies the fact that he now trusts Ramsdale to be his number one keeper for the season. And to be fair, he hasn't done much wrong, conceding 1 goal in 4 league games. A very unlucky goal to concede, as it should have been 4 clean sheets in a row for Arsenal.
I mean, adding to that, with Leno is currently in the rumors of him leaving in January, but unlikely. But mostly he will be leaving Arsenal in this year, maybe. So yeah, I think with Ramsdale are like Mikel, ideal keeper with his style of passing, is basically like a key player. The players that he actually want to be in the team, for players that he want Barcelona to be, but unable to do so. So, yeah.
Yeah.
So yes, that's your wildcard team. I'm going to talk about mine now quickly and a few differences from my wildcard team to yours. So I've just put Sanchez in there, you know, just for in case if Ramsdale doesn't start.
Yeah.
So yeah, not need to mention too much about that. I've got another Arsenal defender in the name of Ben White. He's going to be, he's hopefully going to get some points. I also went for the Chelsea defensive double up as well. And then just another 2 bench fodders, Livramento and Duffy. My forward, Ronaldo, is kind of restricting my movement to what I can invest in the midfield. So I kind of went a little bit budgety on the midfield. Rafinha, Decore, and Bueno and Townsend, which in hindsight, I don't think I should have done that. Huang Hee-chan, the only reason why, we all love him, he's Asian, we're Asian. But aside from, culturally, the only thing I've got concerns about him is that is he one of those players that will be starting week in, week out? That's only my concern with him. But apart from that, he's quite a good player as well. Andros Townsend as well. He's been very, very good. I believe you have him in your No, you don't. You don't have him in your wildcard team. You had him early in the week, and you removed him now. So yeah. And Mbeumo, he basically plays as a forward. So yeah. What do you guys think?
Yeah. Regarding? What was the question?
No, like my overall wildcard team.
Oh, your overall wildcard. Yeah, I think it is. As long as the main thing is,
I could definitely do better.
Yeah, well, what I would say is by going. I see you've got 3 premiums in your team, right?
Yes.
Do you not feel that by having 3 premiums, you're compromising other areas of your team?
Yeah, exactly. This is what I'm talking about. Ronaldo, that's kind of restricting my movement into what I can do with the team.
The reason I say that is because you've got players such as Rafinha is going to miss this week. Mopai, I'm not sure how much I trust him at the moment.
He's got really good form. I just look at
he's on. I trust Brighton more defensively instead of attack for some reason. I don't know. I prefer them as a defensive unit than a attacking team. So That's why I would probably look at maybe Wang or Tony or Adam Armstrong perhaps. But he could be a great differential if it does work out. Alonso, I'm not sure. Many people seem to be convinced that Chilwell will now start. And he was rested in England's game against Hungary last night. So I do think that it's a bit of a risk. And you've got to ask yourself, if these players do indeed get benched, who do you have coming on? Do you have similar quality coming off the bench to replace them, or do you have players that have like a 2-point ceiling that you're replacing them with? Because Alonso is a potential risk. Christensen, okay, he's good this week because I think Thiago Silva is out with Brazil. But Christensen has been dropped a couple of times in the last few weeks.
He's a good budget option. That's why he's in there. For Chelsea.
Yeah, he's a good budget option, but Reece James, I think he's in training. So with Reece James back in training, will that mean that Chelsea have a back five of Reece James, Azpilicueta, Rudiger, someone else?
Chilwell, Alonso.
Yeah, Chilwell. And then,
and
yes, okay, Christensen. Yeah, and Chalab and him. So I feel like you should try maybe get one Chelsea player who you know is indeed nailed, just so that when they do keep clean sheets, you're able to benefit somehow. I just feel like Alonso is a definite risk, as it's basically a coin flip between whether him and Chilwell starts. Christensen, although he's a budget option, if you look at his starting minutes, he has been dropped a couple of times. So that will also be pretty much a guess. Townsend and Doucouré, I'm not sure if you want to double up with Everton attack, because it seems like you're
it's a budget
putting
option.
too much of your... Yeah. Would you not consider perhaps maybe like a Conor Gallagher or someone there instead, just to give you a bit more depth, I would say, instead of putting too much of focus into Everton?
Yeah. I would agree. Shami, anything to add?
No, I don't think I have nothing to add. I feel like Kyle already says everything, basically. I don't think I really need to add, in my opinion.
Yeah, the thing is with I kind of take that on board. I did it a week ago, so I didn't expect it to be good. But yeah, I'll look at that, and I don't have anything else to say about my wildcard team.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
I think that's fine, honestly. It's fine. Probably a few changes, but
yeah, we could look at Huang Yi-chan. He's a good budget option. Get rid of more pay, and then can invest a little bit more in the midfield. So yeah, that's what I'm looking at. Conor Gallagher, Fledging, you did mention about him. Charmy's got him in his team.
Yeah, in
wildcard team.
In my wildcard, yeah.
So
yeah, I think
I like the team.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, he seems to. I think his stats was quite impressive as well. I think he had quite a lot of touches. I think in the box, a lot of touches and shots in the box. Of course, he does play for Crystal Palace, so at any point, how many chances are they going to get? But I think for for what you're paying, it's decent value because you're getting a player that's
attacking.
going to attacking, is going to be in the box, who's on corners, on free kicks. I think there's not much more you can ask for a player from that at that price.
Crystal Palace have
Although
got reasonably good fixtures as well, aside from Arsenal and Man City.
Yeah, they do. Yeah. I would probably say, I actually do like Mbeumo, and I wouldn't be against doubling up with Brentford attack just because they are a very attacking team and, they don't mind. It's basically the same. They are a mirror image of Leeds last season. In Leeds, in their first season, played the exact same way. So it's getting a player. Yeah, it's getting a player who's playing out of position because at times Mbeumo has been playing more advanced compared to Tony.
Yeah.
And I think they have great fixtures. I would probably lean towards Mbeumo over Gallagher in that scenario, seeing as you don't own Mbeumo.
I like Greenwood. He's a good Man United asset to have. He's cheap. He's going to start as long as Rashford is injured.
Yeah, well, Rashford is back, if I'm not mistaken.
Is he? Okay, that puts...
Yeah, I think he is back. Whether he starts is unknown. I mean, nobody knows. But I think that puts Greenwood's minutes a bit at risk because you have Pogba who can play on the wing. You have Sancho who can play on the wing. You have Rashford who can play on the wing. You have Martial who can play on the wing. You have Lingard who can play on the wing. So is Greenwood going to play 90 minutes in a run of tough fixtures for Man United? I don't know. And I certainly wouldn't want to get somebody who comes off the bench and plays 30 minutes when you've got a run of tough fixtures ahead of you,
Yeah. I would agree on that.
So maybe it's something to consider. Especially as there's other players at that price, around that price, that offer better value. Or you could downgrade Greenwood to Mbeumo and then use that 2 million to upgrade Amati to Cancelo or Marcel to Cancelo. I just think perhaps getting in a Man City defender over their next 3 fixtures, Burnley, Brighton and Crystal Palace, they're definitely going to get a couple of clean sheets. They probably could get 3 clean sheets in the next 3. So I would try and take advantage of that fixture run.
Yeah, I would agree.
Something you should note about, Yeah, I feel I should note that about, to take advantage of those fixtures.
Or you can upgrade Grealish to Son if you take out Greenwood for Mbeumo.
Yeah, you could do that.
And then bring in Ben White for Martial.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you could do that. But I just think that there's a bigger upside because we don't know if I just think that there's a bigger upside to getting someone like Cancelo over the next 3 fixtures.
Yeah,
because he seems nailed.
He's attacking as well.
Yeah, and he seems nailed. He hasn't been dropped yet. Zinchenko seems to be preferred in the Champions League. If Zinchenko does play as left back, we have seen Cancelo play as right back. And when Cancelo plays at left back, then Kyle Walker plays as right back. So Cancelo can play either position. As we have seen last season, he can score a goal easily as he gets into those forward attacking positions. Very likely to get assists. I think I wouldn't be surprised if he gets a double-digit haul in one of the next 3 games.
Yeah, I would agree with what you said. And, he almost gets into the box. He's almost like an extra attacker, Cancelo.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah, and you're getting someone that's pretty much as you're getting someone that's as nailed as you can get in a Man City team.
Unless
Whereas
you're Grealish. Grealish is nailed,
Yeah, I
but
think-
where he plays in the pitch concerns me.
Yeah, if I'm completely honest, Grealish, since he's joined Man City, he hasn't looked like the FPL asset he was when he was at Aston Villa, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
He just seems to be assisting the assister. And
Which isn't very good.
He seems quite of a boring FPL player. He reminds me of it's like owning Mason Mount, James Maddison. It's similar to that. It's a player who's quite key to the attack, but not a very selfish player.
Yeah.
Which is what we want. We want selfish players, you know?
In terms of FPL, yeah, we do want. We do want selfish player.
Well, we're running out of time now. So let's move on to our final section, captaincy. So, yeah. Looks like I'm going to have to make a new Zoom for like 5 minutes so then get this done.
Dude, I think I have to go. I really have to go, honestly. Can I?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, second.
Yeah. Right. Me and Fledging will do this then. It'll take 5 minutes for us anyway, so yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
It's good to see you, Shami. Thank you for coming on. And me and Fledging will continue.
Thank you, guys.
So, captaincies then for game week 8. The standout options this week looks like to be Mohamed Salah against Watford, or a Man City asset against Burnley, Lukaku against Brentford, Son, you mentioned, against Newcastle.
Yes.
Anything else that you're looking at from here?
No, those would be my options as well. If I had to limit it, I would say I think Salah is the standout pick, and I wouldn't overthink it if I was someone out there. Another good option is Lukaku, who we do know that Brentford, because they get forward a lot, they will concede a lot of chances, as we did see in the Liverpool game.
Mm-hmm.
An option which is a bit differential but could do well is Cancelo against Burnley. I do see Man City keeping a clean sheet, and historically that fixture has ended 5-0. So it's a high-scoring game, and I wouldn't be surprised if Cancelo gets
an attacking
assist or a goal. Yeah, assist or goal in that game. So those would probably be my three. And well, of course, Son as well. But I don't think that many people will have him just because of what it does to the rest of your team. You have to compromise quite a bit in other areas because he is indeed 10 million, and most people will have Salah and Lukaku or Ronaldo.
Yeah,
as
and
well.
there's a lot to sacrifice.
Yeah, so I don't think he would be as popular, but definitely against Newcastle, a team with the worst expected goals, with the highest expected goals conceded, anything is possible.
Yeah, anything is possible in FPL. And of course, it usually does. And hopefully that means getting a green arrow this week. Good luck to you this week, FPL Fledging. It's been a pleasure having you on this week.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. I wish you the very best of luck. Shami has already left us just now. So, it's a shame he can't be here, but we wish him the best of luck as well. And you as an FPL manager as well, Mr. FPL manager.
Thank you very much.
This.
Let's hope our arrows are green this week.
Yes, instead of the 3 reds that I've received in the last 4 weeks. I'd ideally
I
like
think
to go with
this
the opposite.
can be a week
direction.
where our fortune changes.
Yeah. Fortune favours the brave, and FPL Fledgling
Definitely.
has already provided that a lot of us already. If you want to compete with us in the FPL League, you can do so using the league code 55AQS0. I've got it right finally. It's 55AQS0. The link is in the description below. The auto-join link's in the description below. I'll leave FPL Fledgling's Twitter in the description as well. He does a lot of good memes. I think you'll quite enjoy it. Even as someone who isn't really, fascinated by memes, I still really enjoy his humor that he brings to FPL, especially when we have a bad week, He clearly knows a lot about FPL, so drop him a follow on his Twitter account. He's got over 2,000 followers. Let's get him to 3,000 followers by the end of December. Let's get him to 3,000 followers. I think that's a reasonable target to aim at. But apart from that, if you have enjoyed this video, do click the like button, subscribe as well. My Twitter is also down there. My Instagram is also down there, where I will post, and I will normally do deadline streams, providing I have the right atmosphere to do the deadline stream. But if you have enjoyed the video and you want to watch more, click here. If you want to subscribe, click here. And I'll see you next week for more FPL content.